at par with IIT, IIMs to be set up as a model of best multidisciplinary education of global standard in the country. Okay, fine. This is very much needed. But at the same time, you should see that multidisciplinary education should not dilute. The multiple exit will certainly dilute the education system. Integrating the diploma and abolishing the diploma, polytechnics, ITIs, and integrating them into 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th will also dilute the value of technical education, the value of mainstream education, and also make the students to drop out to enter into higher education. These are the demerits. Dear friends, majority of in the B.Ed education, there are many in the teacher education, national curriculum framework for teacher education. In consultation with the NCERT, by 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching will be 4-year integrated BE. Stringent action will be taken against the substandard standalone teacher education institutions. That means they will take a stringent action. 4-year integrated BEd is essential. There is no MPhil. After, if you have 4-year BA graduation, then 1-year PG, then directly you can go to PhD. So then open and distance learning adoption method, online education, distance education, technology in education, National Education Technology Forum will be created to provide platform for free exchange of ideas. These are all the things we should encourage. Promotion of Indian languages. One point I have to oppose here, the Semoli, any Semoli, the classical language, strengthening the Sanskrit and all language departments in higher education institution. NEP recommends setting an Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, a National Institute for Pali, Persian, Prakrit. Idella set pandra. Internationalization of education is coming. There is not a problem. You can focus on that. Those who wanted to study Indian classical languages, they can always study. But it should not be integrated with. It should not be made as a mandatory subject. As per the new education policy, you have to learn a classical language as a part of your graduation. Cannot be accepted and it should be opposed. And that is nothing but imposition of another language, which is not needed in the higher education segment. Those who wanted to study Tamil or Sanskrit or any other language, they can always go for a specialized purpose of study, not integrated with the mainstream education. So these are the certain things. And also financing the education sector, 6% of the GDP at the earliest they have achieved, they have assured. I don't know how they are going to ensure the 6% of the GDP for the education sector, both states and central government. It's again a question mark. It is not going to be a never take up. It's not going to take up. So, dear friends, these are the initial points with reference to the education is concerned. When we look at the other points, maybe I think I'll wait for the questions, and based on the question, one more thing I would like to emphasize here is which are the conflicting points, which I would like to emphasize. The conflicting area, if you look at the state government and the central government, may get into the loggerheads, fighting in the courts, and also enacting the legislation based on the concurrent list. There are many areas, potential areas for fighting. The one area which I feel is conducting the classical examination by National Assessment Center, NAC, which comes under the MHRD, is going to be a contentious area where the state government has to fight, has to ensure its autonomy, the state autonomy, and then it has to do away with this kind of examination. Instead of that, state can conduct their own school-based examination and a monthly-based examination, and then undertake a weighted average, and then they can go for it and certainly enacting a legislation by the state will be the right alternative, and which the central cannot overcome, because they cannot intrude into the state autonomy. The second one, abolishing the diploma and ITA and integrating with the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is going to be another area of contention. The third one, conducting the entrance examination for the state-funded institution, higher education institutions, colleges, universities, engineering, medical is going to be the next area of contention, where a strong government, state government, can enact a separate entrance examination for higher education and do away with national entrance examination such as NEET. There is a possibility, certainly this is going to be a next contentious area where a strong state government can fight, can do away, and then ensure the autonomy of the state with respect to education sector, which is still in the concurrent list. So if we enact no government, even in the NEET, the central government has enacted has released the Gazette based on the Supreme Court direction. The NEET law, which is NEET GO, which is passed by the NEET bill, which is passed by the Parliament, does not specify the NEET should be conducted only in CBSE syllabus. Still, without understanding that these politicians are fighting in the battle of blind. Okay, so state, each and every state have the right to enact a legislation to conduct the NEET instead of NEET. They can conduct SEET, and then they can enroll based on the SEET examination under the state board syllabus. They can enroll the students for 85% of the state quota. Let the central government enroll 15% of the quota through NEET. This is possible. It can be done if we have a powerful state government. The other area where there is a conflict is going to be on the autonomous status of the colleges within the umbrella provision, within the standards set by the state government. Universities, the affiliating institution is not going to be there. Every college is going to be autonomous if that kind of a scenario arises. But each autonomous institution, the autonomous granting institution, should have the control on the syllabus, the basic syllabus, and the basic fee structure, and the education admission based on the prevailing reservation system. So these are all the areas for contentious area where state has a role to play, and the state can fight for its right. Then if you look at the central registry authority by the union government for higher education institution, is clearly a violation of Article 246(3) of the Constitution. The proposed merger of special schools for differently abled students with the regular school is a forceful effort to emphasize the inclusiveness, blatantly violates Article 14 of the Constitution. Again, a problem. Most changes suggested in the National NEP 2020 will require extensive amendments to various union and state legislation, notwithstanding the Constitution as well. That means this will create a big problem. This will create a constitutional fight between the state and the central government. This bargain will give the center to overrule under the concurrent list autonomy given to the central government, but a vice state government can fight and ensure its rights. The major fault in the NEP, it chose not to promise secular education. It does not promise secular education. NEP. That means this is again guarantees, this again a departure from the constitutional guarantee under the Article 28.1, which is again a major contentious point. No religious instruction used to be provided in the education institution wholly maintained out of the state funds. That categorically states no religious institutions is to be provided in education institution wholly maintained out of the state funds. That means it's clearly violative of the constitutional guarantee given under the Article 28.1, which again has to be each and every state has to consider. Then categorizing instead of socio and educationally backward, they have clearly earmarked socio and economically disadvantaged group. This is separating them from socially backward and deprived group is a conscious attempt to negate the social realities and defeating the spirit of the social justice mandated by the Constitution, according to one of the advocate who has written detailed about the Indian Express in Times of India. He has written a very detailed article. These are the constitutional controversies which will create a problem. So not only that, there are many such aspects which will create a problem for NEP. So dear friends, certainly NEP 2020 is a need of the hour, but with the modification, with the right modification, without intruding into the state autonomy. But clearly the NEP, even though it states that it has to create a knowledge economy, it has to ensure the quality education irrespective of any social inequalities. But the stated objective, when it is translated into various missions for school, higher education and research, is not coping with the vision it is set for achieving the millennium goals set for India on education front. Certainly, this is not going to take us into face the challenges before us by 2050. So 2050, when the world will become 9 billion population, only 2 countries will feed the world, only China and India. But this education policy will not prepare a global human resource cadre. It will not prepare, will not empower our farmers, will not empower our agriculture domain sector with the globally human resource cadre to develop the agriculture sector through evergreen revolution. Certainly, this education policy will not prepare a human resource cadre which can empower the agriculture sector. Certainly, this education policy will not create a global human resource cadre to evolve our industry to meet the industry 5.0 demand of the nation. The entire world today has adopted a gig economy. The gig economy is nothing but a contractual labors. A gig economy is nothing but empowering the workers to make them work from home. Online workers, whether from FMCG, a fast-moving consumer goods, to pharma, BFSI, banking, financial and sector industry, or retail sector, or agriculture sector, or industrial sector, or manufacturing sector, or construction sector, whichever may be the sector. Today, it is envisioned more than 65% of the manpower is going to be ruled by gig economy. That means gig economy necessitates our future graduates, whether from arts or science or humanities or engineering. They have to adopt the life of gig economy. That means more than 65% of the employable people will have to work from home, will have to get into contractual labors, will have to become a contractual employees. That means 2 hours you work for one company, another 2 hours you work for another company, another 3 hours you work for another company. Out of 8 hours, you work for multiple companies. As long as you have the potential to work, you can work. If you are disabled, if you are not able to work, the social security, the provident fund, the majority of the social security enshrined in the constitution, enshrined in the government, will not be available to the future engineers, the future graduates, the future arts and science graduates, they will not be able to get. That is going to be the rule of the game. The labor laws amended by the labor code, the 4 kind of labor codes amended by the government of India last year, ensures the gig workers, ensures the contractual laborers. There is no particular employment to a particular company. Is going to be the rule of the game. That means the students have to be empowered with multiple skill sets. The students have to be empowered not only with a particular focus, whether he is a physics student or a chemistry student or a mathematics student or an engineering student. It is not only a single domain which will empower them, but the majority, the multiple skill set what you occur is going to define the force. The rule of the game of 5 days week is going to be changing. You work for 2 days, the rest of the 5 days is holidays for you. You earn enough, then holidays for you. That is the kind of the economy which is we are moving. So completely the education system, the focus, the gig economy, the transformation after COVID-19 is making the entire world to move towards a gig economy. In such a scenario, adopting the conventional policies, adopting a value, that means a step ahead, a incremental, a policy change will not help the country to face the challenges of the world. India have to become an economically empowered nation in another 20 years. India have to make a poverty-free nation in next 10 years. When it is possible, unless India achieves 10% growth rate, GDP growth rate for consecutively 10 years, for the next 10 years time the line, then only it is possible. It is not that whatever the gig economy which is ruling the entire globe is not adaptable to India, because India is having big workforce. If the big workforce are left with simple and this kind of a volatile employment scenario, which may lead to unrest in the economy. A volatile scenario will lead to insecurity to the aged. Those who are getting retired from the government service, from the academic service, from the professional service, today they do not have a pension. They are having a new pension policy. This itself is giving a unrest in the olden days. This itself giving a social insecurity in the olden days when you retire. When you work for the development of the country, after retirement, your life will become unstable. Your life is going to be questionable. Your life is not assured. Even after 60 years, your life is going to be unstable as and now. But if the gig economy is taking over, that is going to take over until if you are not changing the economic policies as given by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. If you adopt the global economic trend, if you adopt the global economic policies, certainly even 25 years old youth who are entering into the economic sector, who are entering into the employment sector, will have to earn, will have to save for the rest of the life in very shortest span of time. During their youth, they have to work hard and they have to work multiple way and they have to earn and save themselves to ensure the social security during their olden days. So this is the kind of the system scenario is going. It is totally complex. It is totally a very, very risky environment which we are heading towards. Certainly, dear friends, as a faculty, your role, your responsibility is more. You have to prepare the youth, you have to prepare the students to achieve multiple skill sets, not only a graduate on a particular discipline, but you have to ensure them to achieve multiple skill sets. You have to ensure them to achieve different skill sets which can help them to gain a gainful employment, a kind of a adaptability and agility are the two factors. You have to prepare the manpower to be adaptable. You have to prepare the manpower to be always agile. That means it is not only your education which is going to empower them. It is the kind of a multidisciplinary skill set, the multi-dimensional quality which you are imbibing them on the youth and the students, which is going to help them in achieving that kind of a scenario. So, dear friends, this kind of a today, as of now, 57% of the working adults in India worried about losing jobs. That means in Russia it is 75%, Spain it is 73%, Malaysia it is 71%, but India 57% is a huge when compared to any other countries which are listed now. So this is the kind of the scenario. So in this kind of a scenario, today the engineering, if you look at the engineering jobs which are having high potential, are going to be certainly, if you look at the kind of a scenario, just a minute. In the engineering area, there are some interesting big opportunity, 5 big opportunity in India. It means by 2020 to 2025, in electronics alone, $105 billion opportunity. Water management, water technology, around $100 billion opportunity. Defense production, $55 billion opportunity. EV charging, that is electronic vehicle charging, $20 billion opportunity. Data center, $20 billion opportunity. That means around $300 billion opportunity is there for these kind of specialized jobs. Then, if you look at the what kind of a challenges, is not only challenges, what kind of quality, that kind of the capability, what you need today, which everyone has to top skill set. The top skill set what you need today, which you have to ensure. That means kind of a adaptability, agility, and then the just a minute. Sorry. So, in the kind of a gig economy, in a kind of a scenario where you need a completely contractual and online based and a home work from home kind of economy, every student should possess a multiple skill set of analytical thinking, innovation, and then active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality and initiative, local initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use and monitoring and control, technology design and programming, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility. Resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, reasoning, problem solving and ideation. These are the skill set which is needed to face the next 20 years or 30 years down the line in front of us. So dear faculty members, I sincerely request every one of you, it is not that you are preparing a graduate alone. It is not that you are preparing a graduates or a postgraduate alone. You are going to create a global human resource cadre. You are going to create a leader who have a vision, a leader. You are going to create a leader who is having a passion to transform the vision into mission. You are going to create a leader who is having a courage in taking decision. You are going to create a leader who is practicing a transparency in each and every action. You are going to create a leader who is walk into an unexplored path. You are going to create a leader who should know how to manage the success and how to manage the failure. Yeah, you are going to create a leader who observes the failure within himself and gives the credit of success to his team members. You are going to create a leader who can work with integrity and succeed with integrity. This is the kind of the leaders you are going to create as a faculty member, as a professors, as a lecturers, as a institutional head, you are going to create such a kind of a leadership. So, dear friends, you are going to think out of the box. The National Education Policy 2020, even though the central government have a roadmap to implement it in the next years to come, but certainly this is going to face a lot of difficulties. The timeline what they have given, if you look at 2021 to 2022, is a formulation of National Curriculum Framework for School Education. National Curriculum Framework for Teacher Education is going to be up to 2022. In 2022 to 2023, a common guiding set of National Professional Standard for teachers will be evolved by 2022 to 2023. Teachers prepared for a transformation in the assessment system. So teachers will be prepared for transformation in the assessment system. By 25 to 26, attaining universal foundational literacy and numeracy in all primary schools for all learners by grade 3, 25 to 26. By the time this government is there or not, or the new education policy will be dropped, or new policy will be framed, we don't know. The state and union territories, governments, to optimize the resources through mechanisms to group or rationalize schools such as school complexes. At least 50% of the learners exposed to vocational education in the school and higher education system. That means 50% they wanted to push to the vocational education. I don't know which they are planning to achieve before 2025 to 2026. The universal provisioning of quality early childhood development and care will be achieved only by 2030. We don't know. So it's a long way to go, whether long hurdles to go, long bottlenecks to go, long fight to go between state and the center, unless the policy is streamlined or adaptable or agile to take India, to make India as an economically empowered nation, to make India as a knowledge superpower, to make India as a comparable to any of the country in the world. We have to, this NEP is not sufficient, which is lack of credentials, which is lacking of quality objectives, which is lacking visionary thought. That is the problem. So even though structure is good, the structure on top of the structure, the pillars are weak. So we have to evolve the pillars which can empower this nation to achieve greater heights. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful knowledge